Pay attention for a second, this is important. Big-name retailers have quietly started putting purchase caps on 13 common household items, and most shoppers don't realize what's unfolding right now. When I spoke with a supply chain analyst last week, they shared information that genuinely rattled me and made it hard to sleep afterward. According to what I'm seeing, shortages projected for 2026 could be so severe they'll make the disruptions of 2020 feel like a practice run. Here's what really matters, though. The people who stay ahead of these situations aren't panicking. They're calmly and strategically stocking up on specific bulk essentials while they're still easy to find. And believe me, once I get to item number 7, it'll suddenly make sense why Walmart is restricting customers to only 2 units at a time. Over the past month, I've been deep in the weeds, reviewing supply chain data, speaking directly with warehouse supervisors, and monitoring inventory levels across more than 200 stores nationwide. What I uncovered completely changed the way I think about everyday shopping, and it likely will for you too as the year goes on. So stay with me, because by the time this video wraps up, you'll know exactly which items to grab before everyone else catches on and store shelves start clearing out fast. White rice. Yep, just that plain, unassuming staple probably sitting on a shelf in your kitchen right now. But here's what almost no one is paying attention to. Last month, I was catching up with my friend Mike, who oversees distribution for a large grocery chain, and he casually pulled up his live ordering dashboard while we were talking. What he showed me was eye-opening. According to supplier data, available rice inventory is down 34% compared to this same point last year. And that's only part of the problem. India, which accounts for close to 40% of global rice exports, has officially extended its export restrictions all the way through 2026. When Mike showed me an internal memo from one of their main suppliers, I honestly couldn't believe it. They're forecasting another 45% increase in rice prices by March alone. But it doesn't stop there. What Mike said next genuinely sent a chill through me. 3 of their largest rice suppliers have already moved to shipment allocation. In plain terms, that means stores can no longer get the full quantities they request, even if they're willing to pay more. I didn't waste any time. As soon as I got home, I placed an order for 4 25-pound bags from Costco. And here's why that decision made sense. A single bag of rice can sustain a family of 4 for almost an entire month. And when stored correctly, rice can remain usable for up to 30 years. So here's your game plan. Aim to stock at least 50 pounds of rice for every person in your household. Seal it in airtight containers and toss in a few bay leaves to keep pests away. Believe me, when rice climbs to $3 a pound next year, you'll be glad you planned ahead. Now, item number 2 is one most people completely underestimate. A lot of folks assume whey protein is only for gym rats and bodybuilders. But looking ahead to 2026, a single tub of this stuff could seriously impact whether your family stays strong and healthy or starts dealing with real nutritional deficiencies. Here's the uncomfortable truth that almost no one in the fitness space is openly discussing yet. The days of cheap, easily available protein are coming to an end. I've been following import and manufacturing data closely, and honestly, the outlook isn't pretty. The majority of raw whey concentrate, along with the containers it's packaged in here in the US, depends heavily on global supply chains that are being squeezed hard by new tariff policies. Current projections show costs climbing somewhere between 30 and 40% by mid-2026. And tariffs are only part of the story. The dairy industry itself is contracting. Cattle herds are at historic lows, milk output is dropping, and that means the base ingredient needed to produce whey is becoming increasingly scarce. In simple terms, milk is turning into a high-demand commodity, and whey prices will follow. So why does this matter for preparedness? Think it through. In any long-term food disruption or grid-down scenario, protein becomes the hardest nutrient to maintain. You can stash hundreds of pounds of rice, but without adequate protein, your immune system weakens and muscle loss happens faster than most people realize. Canned meats help, but they're bulky, heavy, and pricey. Whey protein solves several of those problems at once. It's lightweight, easy to store, and stays good for years as long as it's kept dry. More importantly, it's one of the fastest and most efficient ways to deliver around 25 grams of high-quality protein to your body in seconds. That's why experienced preppers aren't wasting money on flashy, flavored 2-pound tubs anymore. They're quietly picking up large, unflavored bulk bags right now, before prices skyrocket. And trust me, when fresh meat is pushing $20 a pound, adding a scoop of this to your oatmeal is going to feel like a game changer. Item number 3 is canned tomatoes, specifically whole and diced varieties. And honestly, this one blindsided me when I started digging into the data. I'm not talking about pasta sauce here, but plain canned tomatoes, the kind most people overlook until they're gone. What's unfolding behind the scenes hasn't made headlines, but it should be. California's Central Valley, which supplies about 95% of the tomatoes used for processing in the U.S., has just gone through its most severe drought in 4 decades. I managed to review a USDA agricultural report from December 2025, and the numbers were alarming. Tomato yields are down roughly 38% compared to normal production levels. That's not a small dip, that's a massive supply shock. Here's the part most people don't realize. Canned tomatoes are the backbone of countless long-term food meals. Pasta dishes, chili, soups, stews, almost every comfort or survival recipe starts with tomatoes as a base. One single case of canned tomatoes can turn 50 pounds of rice and beans into meals your family will actually want to eat instead of tolerate. I didn't hesitate. Last weekend, I picked up 52 cans while they were still on sale for under $1 each. Based on current trends, I fully expect those same cans to be pushing $2 a piece by summer. If you're stocking up, focus on whole and diced tomatoes. They're far more flexible than pre-made sauces. Item number 4 is probably going to rub some people the wrong way. But stay with me for a minute. We're talking about toilet paper, and not the regular household packs. I mean commercial-grade rolls. If the toilet paper chaos of 2020 is still fresh in your memory, brace yourself, because the pressures building now are even worse. What most people don't realize is that the pulp and paper industry is quietly dealing with a serious labor shortage. I recently spoke with Tom, a supervisor at a paper mill in Oregon, and he told me their facility is barely running at about 60% capacity because they simply don't have enough workers. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. Here's where it really starts to stack up. The cost of lumber, an essential input for pulp production, has jumped roughly 67% since September 2025. On top of that, 3 major paper mills shut their doors permanently last year, and none of them are being replaced. The industry is shrinking and consolidating, which means fewer producers and less product available for everyone else. Now, here's the part that actually gives you an advantage. Commercial-grade toilet paper is in a completely different league. One roll typically contains around 1,000 sheets, compared to about 200 sheets in standard household rolls. That means each roll lasts roughly 5 times longer and ends up costing about 30% less per sheet. If you're going to stock up, look for commercial-grade rolls through restaurant supply stores or Amazon Business while they're still affordable. Because when regular toilet paper starts creeping toward $3 per roll next year, you'll be very glad you planned ahead, literally. Item number 5 is batteries, specifically lithium and rechargeable options. This is the item almost everyone assumes they're covered on, right up until the power goes out and reality hits hard. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about tossing a cheap pack of AA alkalines into your cart at checkout. If those old-school batteries are still your emergency plan, you're basically wasting money. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people haven't caught on to yet. We're already in the middle of a global lithium scramble. I've been following mining and production reports coming out of South America and China, and the trend is impossible to ignore. Demand for lithium, the critical ingredient behind electric vehicles, smartphones, laptops, and yes, modern batteries, is exploding. Supply simply isn't keeping pace. Analysts are now warning of a major shortfall by mid-2026. So what does that mean for you? It means high-quality batteries are about to get a lot more expensive, very quickly. But rising prices aren't even my biggest concern. The real issue is the power grid itself. Just look at the headlines. Rolling blackouts are no longer rare events. They're becoming routine. Our electrical infrastructure is aging, overloaded, and increasingly exposed to everything from extreme weather to cyber threats. When the grid goes down, all that smart tech in your home turns useless fast. Darkness sets in immediately, unless you've planned ahead. That's why I'm aggressively building a stockpile of lithium batteries and rechargeable NIMH options right now. Unlike cheap alkaline batteries that leak, corrode, and destroy devices after sitting unused for a year, lithium batteries are built for long-term reliability. Many have shelf lives ranging from 10 to 20 years. You can buy them today, toss them into a bug-out bag, and a decade from now they'll still power your radio without hesitation. That kind of reliability is hard to overstate. Always check the expiration dates on the packaging. You want dates stretching well into the 2040s. Because when the next major storm hits or the grid takes a serious hit, you'll see people scrambling and fighting over the last battery packs on the shelves. Don't be one of them. Be the person at home with the lights on, listening to the radio, calm and prepared. Because you bought smart while these batteries were still affordable and easy to find. Item number 6 is one most people would never expect: concentrated laundry detergent. I know, it sounds random at first, but stick with me, because this one matters more than you think. The reality is the chemical supply chain is in serious trouble right now, and hardly anyone is paying attention. While digging into this, I found that roughly 75% of the surfactants used to make laundry detergent are sourced internationally. On top of that, shipping costs for those chemicals have more than tripled since 2024. That alone would be bad enough, but what I heard next really caught my attention. Here's where concentrated detergent becomes a smart move. A single small bottle can handle around 64 loads of laundry, compared to about 32 loads from a standard bottle. That means it takes up half the storage space while costing roughly 25% less per wash. It's efficiency stacked on top of savings. And when detergent prices inevitably spike, potentially by 50% next year, you'll be very glad you planned ahead. I didn't hesitate when I saw the opportunity. I picked up 12 bottles of Tide Ultra Concentrated when Target had them marked down. When I ran the numbers, that worked out to about a year and a half of laundry for our household. The best part? These bottles are compact, easy to store on a shelf, and as long as they remain sealed, they don't expire. It's one of those quiet purchases that pays off later. Now we're at item number 7, and this is the one that really stopped me in my tracks. Hand sanitizer. More specifically, bulk-sized sanitizer with 70% alcohol content. And this is the moment where everything clicks. Here's the bombshell I hinted at earlier. Last Tuesday, while doing some routine research, I visited 3 different Walmart locations. At every single one, I saw the same thing. Signs limiting hand sanitizer purchases to just 2 bottles per customer. No pandemic, no public emergency, just a regular weekday. When I asked a store manager what was going on, she glanced around, lowered her voice, and said, "We got a corporate notice last week. Supply problems." But that was only the beginning. I followed up by calling a contact I have at a major alcohol distillery, the same type of operation that pivoted to sanitizer production during COVID. What he told me made my stomach sink. The FDA recently rolled out new rules that now require hand sanitizer to be produced in pharmaceutical-grade facilities. And here's the catch. About half the companies currently making sanitizer can't afford to meet those new standards. It gets worse. In December 2025 alone, 3 major manufacturers permanently shut down their sanitizer operations. That's millions of gallons of production capacity wiped out overnight. At the same time, flu season has been hitting harder than expected, and demand is already climbing faster than supply can respond. And here's why people who plan ahead are quietly stockpiling this stuff. It's not just about clean hands. Hand sanitizer with 70% alcohol is incredibly versatile. It works as a surface disinfectant, an emergency antiseptic, and even a reliable fire starter in outdoor situations. I've personally used it to sanitize tools, wipe down surfaces, and yes, get a campfire going when conditions were rough. Item number 8 is vitamins, and I know this one might raise some eyebrows. A lot of people like to joke that vitamins are just expensive urine, but I'm talking about very specific ones here. Vitamin D3, vitamin C, and a solid, high-quality multivitamin. What I uncovered while researching this completely changed how I look at supplements. Here's the part most people never hear about. More than 80% of the raw materials used to make vitamins are sourced from China and India, and both regions are currently dealing with serious supply chain disruptions. To get a clearer picture, I sat down with Dave, a supplement shop owner who's been in the business for over 2 decades. He pulled out recent supplier notices and walked me through them, and the numbers were shocking. Since October 2025, the cost of vitamin C raw materials has jumped by roughly 230%. Vitamin D3 is in even worse shape, with prices up about 340% and supplies now officially on allocation. And when Dave says allocation, he means his suppliers are only filling about half of what he orders, no matter how much he asks for. Here's where things get really concerning. During the last pandemic, vitamin D3 became incredibly valuable once studies started showing that people with healthy D levels had significantly better outcomes, up to 80% better in some cases. And it's not just illness that matters. When your body is under stress from poor nutrition, lack of sleep, or prolonged hardship, your demand for vitamins rises dramatically. If you store vitamins in a cool, dry place, they typically remain effective for up to 4 years beyond the printed expiration date. That's a small, affordable step that can make a big difference when supply tightens and prices spike. Item number 9 is a personal one for me: first aid supplies. And I don't mean a couple of band-aids tossed into a drawer. I'm talking about serious, practical medical basics. This one hit home last month when my daughter got a deep cut from a piece of broken glass. We rushed out, stopping at 3 different pharmacies, expecting to grab what we needed quickly. Instead, we came up empty. No butterfly closures, no sterile gauze, no medical tape. At the last stop, the pharmacist at CVS finally explained why. Those items, she said, had been on back order for weeks. And that's when I started digging deeper into what's really going on. The medical supply chain is quietly falling apart. A huge portion of basic medical supplies are manufactured overseas, and rising shipping costs have made many of them barely worth importing anymore. Here's the part that really matters. In any emergency, whether it's a disaster, a storm, or just a bad night at the ER, medical systems get overwhelmed fast. You need the ability to handle basic injuries at home: cuts, burns, sprains, minor infections. Things that don't sound dramatic until you're dealing with them in real time and help isn't immediately available. That experience changed how I prepare. I went to a medical supply store and spent about $200 building a comprehensive first aid kit. Sterile gauze, medical tape, antiseptic wipes, butterfly closures, instant cold packs, elastic bandages, and yes, even a basic suture kit with instructions. It might sound excessive, but when someone you love is bleeding and the emergency room is quoting a 6-hour wait, you'll be thankful you didn't cut corners. Item number 10 is where things really take an unexpected turn: cooking oil, specifically coconut oil and avocado oil. This one might not be on most people's radar yet, but it's quietly becoming one of the most valuable everyday essentials heading into 2026. We're talking about what could soon be liquid gold. What most shoppers don't realize is that we're in the middle of a global harvest breakdown that has farmers genuinely alarmed. Spain, which normally supplies close to half of the world's olive oil, has been slammed by consecutive years of drought. As a result, production there has dropped by nearly 50% in just 2 years. And olives are only part of the problem. Sunflower oil supplies are still being strangled by ongoing conflict in Eastern Europe, while extreme weather across Southeast Asia is devastating palm oil crops. When you add it all together, the message becomes clear. The age of cheap cooking oil is coming to an end. Analysts are already warning that by mid-2026, a basic bottle of olive oil could cost what a decent bottle of wine does today. And here's the part people don't think about. Unlike vegetables, you can't just grow cooking oil in a backyard garden. Once you've used what you have, that's it. There's no quick replacement. That reality is why people who think long-term aren't bothering with small glass bottles anymore. The key is breaking it down properly. Once you bring it home, transfer the oil into smaller containers. Dark glass bottles or mason jars work well, and store them in the coolest, darkest part of your home, such as a basement or the bottom of a closet. When sealed tightly and kept cool, these oils can last anywhere from 18 to 24 months without going rancid. Now think about the bigger picture. In a grid-down scenario or during a period of runaway inflation, fat equals energy. You need oil to cook rice, fry fish, and maintain enough calories to keep your family going. When store shelves are bare in 2026, that 5-gallon container won't just be cooking supplies, it'll be a form of insurance you'll be very glad you invested in early. Item number 11 is the ultimate long-term safety net. If supply trucks stop showing up in 2026, you can stash canned food all you want. But sooner or later, every can gets opened. And when that happens, what's your next move? That question leads directly to this item, and honestly, it's the one powerful agricultural interest would rather you never think about: heirloom seeds. Here's the unsettling truth. More than 60% of the world's commercial seed supply is controlled by just four massive chemical corporations. These companies design seeds that don't reproduce. So if you save seeds from a grocery store tomato and try to plant them later, you often get nothing. It's an intentional system that forces farmers and consumers to buy new seeds every single season. In a serious disruption, that model collapses fast, and relying on it becomes incredibly dangerous. That's exactly why people who plan ahead are quietly building collections of heirloom, open-pollinated seeds right now. These aren't just gardening tools, they're food independence. With heirloom seeds, you grow a plant, harvest the food, save the seeds, and plant them again the following year. No permission required. No reordering. You step completely outside the cycle of dependence and become your own supply chain. And this isn't a theoretical risk anymore. We're already seeing widespread crop failures across California's agricultural heartland due to extreme weather shifts that began in late 2025. Analysts are projecting fresh produce prices to jump by as much as 45% next year. When a head of lettuce costs $10, a well-stocked seed vault isn't a hobby, it's stored value. It's food security in physical form. That said, not all seeds are created equal. Those cheap paper packets from discount stores are often old and unreliable, with low germination rates. What you want instead are survival-grade seed vaults, sealed in mylar, designed for long-term storage and built to last for years. If you don't have a seed bank yet, you're essentially betting that grocery stores will always stay stocked and open. And looking ahead to 2026, that's a gamble I'm not willing to take. Item number 12 is deceptively simple, but it might be one of the most important things on this entire list: matches and lighters, stocked in real, no-nonsense bulk. This is what I call fire insurance. It doesn't sound dramatic, but it can absolutely be life-saving. Here's what caught me off guard. The largest match manufacturer in the United States recently announced the closure of its primary production facility, citing skyrocketing wood costs. That single decision wipes out roughly 40% of all domestic match production almost overnight. And when it comes to lighters, the situation is even tighter. Most lighter fluid and butane are imported, and new shipping regulations have made transporting those materials painfully expensive. So why are experienced preppers quietly buying these by the case? Because fire equals survival. Without it, you can't cook food, purify water, stay warm, or signal for help. Fire is the foundation everything else rests on. I saw this firsthand during the Texas freeze in 2021. My cousin's family lost power for 8 days, and the only reason they made it through safely was because they had the ability to start and maintain fires when everything else failed. For storage, keep matches sealed in airtight containers and store lighters at room temperature. Waterproof matches can last for decades, and quality lighters will still function years later, even if they've been sitting unused. We arrive at item number 13, the most underrated multi-tool on this entire list: duct tape and paracord. This isn't just about quick fixes or convenience. This is about real-world survival engineering. Here's what's quietly unfolding behind the scenes. The adhesives that make high-quality duct tape actually work are derived from petroleum-based chemicals. With oil prices fluctuating wildly, those production costs are climbing fast. On top of that, the 3M facility responsible for producing premium-grade tape is currently operating below full capacity due to ongoing environmental compliance upgrades. That means less supply at higher prices. Paracord is facing its own pressure. Military demand has surged as global tensions rise, and when that happens, civilian access always gets squeezed. A military supplier told me privately that recreational paracord could remain difficult to source through 2026. Most people have no idea this is even happening. Here's why that matters. These two items are pure survival gold. Duct tape is legendary for a reason. It holds together tents, repairs clothing, reinforces tools, and even plays a role in emergency medical situations. Paracord might be even more versatile. You can use it for building shelters, setting fishing lines, creating tourniquets, securing gear, and when you pull it apart, the inner strands can double as sewing thread or fine cordage. Now listen, I know this list might feel overwhelming at first, But here's the truth. People who prepare wisely aren't panicking. They're thinking ahead. Every item we've covered serves multiple purposes and holds value no matter what the economy does. The families who came through 2020 in the best shape weren't the ones panic buying at the last minute. They were the ones who had quietly prepared over time. You don't need to do everything at once. Start with just 2 or 3 items from this list. Build gradually. Pick up a little extra during each shopping trip. Progress beats perfection every time. If this video helped you understand what's really happening with supply chains right now, hit that like button. Drop a comment and let me know which items you're prioritizing first. I read every single one. And make sure you subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the 7 storage mistakes that ruin 90% of people's prep supplies. You do not want to miss that.